we have Catherine here today, and we're going to be talking about risk management related to SMEs in Africa. So Catherine's heavily involved in risk management, involved with the Institute of Risk Management, also writing some articles for the Enterprise Risk magazine. So we're going to focus on some of that area. So really just welcome to you, Catherine. Maybe if you could give a quick overview, quick background of yourself, and then we can get into it.
Okay, thank you so much, Grant. My name is Catherine Nyaga-Mbithi. Yeah, you got the name right. And I'm the co-chair of Institute of Risk Management East Africa Group, and currently working with Absa Life Assurance Kenya as the head of internal audit. My background is in governance, risk management, and audit. Yeah, and I'm glad to be here to discuss this topical issue of SMEs, which is key for us in Africa.
Good. And before we get to that, we always ask everybody the riskiest thing you've ever done and what makes you resilient.
Well, I think maybe the riskiest thing I ever did in my life is to relocate to UK when I was pretty young. I was 25 without my family, and I worked in Deloitte in the UK for about 3 years. New place, new everything, but I had to be resilient enough to survive, because I worked in Channel Islands in Guernsey. And everything was new. I had never been out of Africa before, and here is a place that I had to be on my own, navigating through, finding out how things work, meeting with different people, different cultures, language barriers, you know. So I think that was the biggest, but when I look back, I'm proud I went through that. Yes.
Yeah, very exciting time,
Yes.
and you know, it's stood you in good stead for what you're doing now. So excellent, thank you for that. Let's just go straight into the questions that you wanted me to ask in this area. So first one is, why should policymakers, governments, NGOs, public and private sectors be concerned with SMEs?
Okay, thanks so much. That's a good question. Yeah, I think I'll first define what is an SME, which we consider to be an organization with maybe below 200 staff members, and with a certain level, of course, depending on the industry, with a certain level of revenue. And in Africa, they are the biggest. I mean, they're the biggest players. We call them the backbone of the economy, because more than 90% of the businesses are actually can be categorized as SMEs. So they do contribute a significant amount to the GDP, fairly about 25%, according to the Kenya session paper that was done on SMEs in 2020. So 25% is significant, and we are continuing to see growth in this area. So yeah, I think it's a critical area of business and of the economy. So one of the reasons I would say people should be concerned is, first of all, you know, it's playing a big part in the economy, as I've just explained. You have SMEs that are employing more than 93% of individuals. So that should concern the government, the policymakers, and the public and private sector. Yeah. Again, you find that you know, most of the services that we are looking for, even the big businesses, are being offered by SMEs. So they are the key service providers for the services that most of these organizations will be looking for. So the key things is being contributing significantly to the economy, as well as job creation. Again, also, you know, they are being affected by various factors, and I think that will be the next question. Yeah, but we've seen a lot of challenges for SMEs, but yeah, let me stop the question there, then we can proceed. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I think that sort of set the scene. So what are some of the key risks that SMEs are facing in Africa in particular?
Yeah, that's a key one. You know, there's a report that was produced that stated that very few SMEs go beyond the 5th year from the time they start operations. Very few are able to survive past the 5th year. And the reason is, one, lack of capital. Yeah, you find that SMEs a lot of them don't have sufficient capital to conduct, to invest in their businesses and also to conduct operations. And the ones that have the facilities or they have the funding end up mismanaging most of these funds. So in Kenya at the moment, our interest rates are so high. We are talking of 26%. So if you're going to get a loan at 26%, and in addition to that, there are so many restrictions on for you to borrow. It keeps them, it keeps a lot of them away from these banking institutions. So you find that many of them may not be able to survive because they can't manage the cash flows. Yeah, and like I've said, those who have end up mismanaging even when they get funding from maybe other partnerships or equity funders. They end up mismanaging and it will still end up collapsing. So that's one. The second issue is governance. Yeah, the issue of a lot of SMEs were started by individuals and they grow over the years. But then you find that this individual is not willing to let go. They feel it's my idea, I started on it, and nobody else can understand the business better than I do. So they make the strategic decisions. They also want to be involved in operations. They want to deal with all the stakeholders, which is impossible. As the company is growing, you need to share these responsibilities with others so that you're able to focus on the key objective of the company. So we recommend, a lot of times we recommend them to at least have a board in place. Maybe start off with an advisory board when you're an SME so that you have a group of experts that are helping you to think through the decisions that you're making and help you with many other things like, record keeping. You need somebody in finance that can help you with keeping records. You need somebody who can help you with investments, stakeholder management and such sort of things. So that's the second challenge I can talk about. Another thing would be lack of adequate skills. They don't have, if you think of like the specialized skills, accounting and IT skills, they may not actually afford the right skills to help them in managing these businesses. So they get somebody just on the streets coming, help us here. Of course, we have all these people who tell you that, yes, I can do this, but really, like in the cyber article, I mentioned about somebody who faked his identity as a lawyer, and he actually went to court. And he won in some cases. How does that happen? So we have all these crooks who are in the streets, but they come masked as experts, and they end up messing the operations for the company. Another risk I'll talk about is technology. Yeah, today a lot of organizations are being asked to embrace technology so that you can have efficiency in your operations, to be able to reach your customers more easily, to be able to be more competitive. But they also don't realize that this technology comes with its own risks. Yeah, the cyber risk article that I did has covered that in depth about the cyber risk that these SMEs are exposed to, and now that is even made more difficult by the fact that they can't afford the right skills to help them manage these cyber risks. They don't have the right facilities, the right tools, so that only gravitates that risk. And the last one I want to cover is the high cost of regulations or compliance. And first of all, there are many SMEs who are not even aware of the regulations that they're supposed to comply with. So like recently, we've had some businesses, SMEs, who you would not have imagined, like in Kenya, a supermarket being charged for data protection. Yeah, there was a data breach in their systems, and then they suffered a penalty from the Office of Data Protection. At that point, I'm sure many of them were not even aware that there's such a law in place that would have affected them. A club, there was this Was it a hotel? I think a school. There was a school first, a school that also got charged for by the Data Protection Office because of the exposing a child's identity in public. So a lot of them, you find that they are not aware of these regulations. And even today, we also have the Finance Act in Kenya. There are so many changes that have happened in the last, say, 6-7 months. And many of them are finding themselves not compliant. Then they end up suffering significant penalties, which they cannot pay because they don't have sufficient cash flow. So it gets very complicated when all these related risks now materialize at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And you've actually touched on a lot of risks that apply to other companies in other countries, particularly these enterprise risk management risks. So where do you think the maturity is with the organisations that you work with SMEs in terms of, are they using risk management to help themselves? Are they using it to evolve and mature? What's the sort of perception that you have? And then maybe leading into the final question around, how we can evolve and improve this situation.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's interesting because in Africa, most organizations have not embraced risk management. And those that have are those that are regulated, for example, in banking, in the insurance sector. But the rest just look at risk as, let me use the same term I used in the other video for IRM, it's a policing role. So they don't want to engage risk managers in decision making because they feel like you're just here to block them from pursuing with the decisions that that they're making. So we are at a very, I'd say, novice level of maturity. People have not yet appreciated the role of risk management in adding value to the organization. So you find that they're not they don't want the risk function. They view us as auditors, and who end up sending their report to the board, and they don't. It's like you're reporting them, so they would rather not have you there, unfortunately. But that's where we are. So that's where we are here, trying to just preach the gospel that we are not here to report. We are here to help you add value and build resilience for your organizations.
Exactly. You've hit it on the nail on the head there, haven't you? You're adding and protecting value, building resilience to withstand and adapt to change. And I think that's the key principles that flow through all aspects of risk management. And I think maybe just to try and pick your mind a little bit more, what solutions do you feel are available to enhance success?
Yeah, first, let me say one solution that we are talking about to organizations is, first of all, we need to embrace the risk management function. We should look at risk management as a partner who's going to help us build resilience for organization, minimize chances of this company going down, because we've seen very many of them, and especially now after COVID, the cyber risks that we have experienced as a country, the regulations. We've had the government now putting so many levies. So we are, as a risk manager, we are here to help you think ahead. What are the consequences of this? What are the implications of these laws or regulations that are coming into place? And how can you just be prepared, a lot better prepared for when they come, so that you minimize the chances of going further down. Yeah, so change of the mindset, change of the risk culture within organizations is very key for people to just appreciate the role of risk management. And when I go specific to the risks that I've mentioned, when it comes to like lack of capital, we've had equity partners coming in to assist some of them. We had one which was in the agriculture sector recently, where it was doing quite well, and then they got external funders. They came in. The next thing we find that the CEO has resigned. he's the one who started this company. So the question is, why would he resign? But then it then boils down to the governance aspect. They had their own governance locally, which was probably not aligned to the governance of the acquiree company. And out of disputes and disagreement between the two, he walked out. So we have the foreign company now managing the local company. So before we get that alignment of local practices by a foreign leader, it becomes a bit more complicated. So the governance side needs to come in strongly so that we can help these organizations. If you're being acquired, what must you have in place? For the acquiree, what should be in place? We come to the same table and agree, this is where we are. I'm bringing this, you're bringing this. This is how we align, and this is how we are going to move forward so that it's a win-win for all. So that's on the governance aspect. Also, I mentioned about record keeping. Most of them do not keep accurate records. And just yesterday, we got a report about this insurance company that was acquired by a Mauritian company. And the Mauritian company has just discovered that they had understated their liabilities, and they realized they overpaid for the company's value at the point of acquisition for the last 7 years. And they're actually saying they're engaging their legal expert to see how they can be refunded their money back. Yeah. Already that tells you there's a big problem there, and again, you don't want to go through the legal route because, something small was missed in terms of governance, proper record keeping. So if only the acquiree, the Mauritian company, had engaged a risk manager and the local company had engaged a risk manager who made sure that whatever is being reported is correct, and the risk manager from the acquiree confirms that, yes, it is correct, what we are paying is the right price, then we'll not be where we are today. Yeah. Again, having boards. I always advise that, no matter how small you may feel as a business, you need a board. Yeah. Just so that you can have that objective decision making in your organization, because you cannot be everything. You can't be the operations manager. You cannot be the finance person. You need a board with all the different skills to help you and to support you, to handhold you as you pursue your goals. And then when it comes to technical skills, we realize that most of them may not have capacity or the resources to afford sufficient skills, the right skills, but they can outsource. We have so many people who are offering services and they are really good. Yeah, you can have a risk manager, an outsourced risk manager, outsourced finance people, outsourced board, we have all these people who are offering these different services. So if an organization cannot afford it, it's always recommended that you outsource and reach and at least manage to get the ideal advice for your organization. And then when it comes to technology, that's why IRM partnered with Serianu. Serianu is a consulting firm that focuses on research, IT research, cyber security research. And we came up with the SME cyber risk framework, and this is meant to help SMEs to identify the areas where they are exposed. Of course, cognizant of the fact that they don't have sufficient resources. So we were coming up with the controls, the minimum controls that can help them be able to identify the risks or the exposures as they come up. So we were encouraging as many SMEs as possible to come in and look at the controls that we had recommended. It was a joint effort by experts from Seriano and IRM, and we came up with sufficient controls. So should any SME require these services, Seriano is available to take them through and walk them through the journey of managing the cyber risk. And then the same applies to regulation, which I mentioned. Again, once we embrace the concept of risk management, and even if as an SME I can't afford, if I'm able to at least outsource it to somebody who can keep me updated on the current changes and the impact it has on my organization, then I'll be able to manage that risk better. Yeah. So we need to have a collaborative approach in managing the risks of the SMEs. We need to be open to expert advice. We need to be open to appreciate that we don't know everything, and appreciate that we can have other people contribute positively to our business. And that way we will enhance the resilience of these organizations, and we can get them to survive more than the 5 years that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicated as the maximum number of years that most of them survived.
Good. Amazing amount of information and great work that you're doing. And I'm sure you positioned out there representing the IRM, you're going to help a lot of organisations link into the government as well, evolve the maturity, evolve education and training. And yeah, thank you for that insight interview, and very much appreciated, Catherine. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Grant. I appreciate it.